we spoke once before and didn't end up getting a recording, which is a bit unfortunate. But as I understand it, Luke, we'd agreed that we were going to talk about the claims of Christianity
Sure.
rather than focus on sort of the cutting edge of cosmology and stuff like that.
Okay.
That we were going to talk about the claims of Christianity and see where we go with that. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
And you're all right with the idea that we can both record,
Yeah,
we can both publish it where we like, but no
that's
editing.
fine.
Yep, cool. All right. Well, I guess probably the easiest way to start then is because there are so many different interpretations of Christianity. Tell me what you believe.
I think there are a lot of different avenues people can pursue as far as trying to hook up with some of the Christian, uh, the inconsequential Christian doctrines that really come to a person's preference. For example, some people don't like to dance. Some people don't like to use a particular version of the Bible, use makeup, wear certain kinds of clothes, drink alcohol, and they have certain kinds of uh, doctrinal issues as well, whether or not Jesus was able to sin, whether
Yeah.
baptism is essential for salvation, whether the Bible is inerrant, and even if God used evolution to create living things. All these things that I'm talking about are secondary significance as far as what is prescribed in Scripture for a person to come to the knowledge of Jesus Christ and acknowledge that He died to give us an atonement because, well, all of us sin. We all sin. Everybody sins. And of
Okay. Well,
course,
oh, sorry. Go on.
I was just going to say I guess the core tenets of Christianity have to do with what is essential for a person to obtain salvation and all the major branches of Christianity, whether it's Orthodoxy, whether it's Judeo Christianity or Messianic Judaism, whatever you want to call that. That's Jewish believers in Jesus.
Yeah.
If you're a Catholic, or if you are a Protestant of many varieties. Um, so again, I'll repeat what's essential is that a person coming to the knowledge of Jesus Christ as the one who was sent by God to die on a cross to give people salvation because, like I said, everybody sins. We need an atonement.
Okay. So just to clarify, and I don't want to labor on this, I'm just interested. You said the one sent by God. Are you a Unitarian then rather than a Trinitarian?
No, I'm a Trinitarian.
You're a Trinitarian. So
Yeah.
you would see God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit as the one Godhead.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
all the essential tenets, I guess you could say, that are under the umbrella of classical Christianity, whether you're an Orthodox Protestant or Catholic or Messianic Jew, those those things can we can all agree on. Everything else is of secondary importance.
Okay. Because Christians don't all agree on that, though. There are Christians who don't believe in the Trinity. And in fact, there were an awful lot of them up until the Council of Nicaea in 325. So Christians don't all agree on those basics.
Well, I said I don't believe that the doctrine of the Trinity. I never even brought that up, but I'll go ahead and address that issue.
Okay,
Uh,
sorry, I thought that's what you were saying, that everybody agrees on the Trinity. So if you
no,
weren't, it's fine. I don't particularly need you
no.
to
I now you asked me personally whether I believe that God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy
yeah.
Spirit
Okay.
is a doctrine that I hold to, and that is true. I do.
Okay, cool.
Now, if a person, let's say a person, does not believe that Jesus is God, that there is no such thing as the Trinity. Can they be saved? Can they still be a Christian? My answer is yes, of course, because the Bible never mentions uh, the word Trinity anywhere. It never says that you must believe this in order to be saved, as or
Okay,
be a true follower of Jesus.
okay. So if if the Trinity is correct, and it's God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, and you claim it is,
Yes.
then that means presumably that the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New Testament and Jesus are all the same, which is that constant, unchanging God, the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Is that, have I got that right?
Yes. So I believe that there is one God, and God has revealed himself to us several ways, and not just through Jesus. He
Right.
has brought down his own glory, that was actually people were able to stand in front of his glory in the when the temple the first temple, actually, not the second didn't have that glory within it, but the first temple did. And in other instances in Genesis, where God is accompanying Abraham when he's talking to him, I want to say it's Genesis 36, and he's talking to Abraham, and Abraham refers to him as Lord. And so there's another that's another example of another example would be where Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, and there were three people who were thrown in, and then when Nebuchadnezzar looks inside, I'm sorry, the fiery furnace, not the lion's den, but they were thrown into a furnace, and there was someone in there with them. They People assume it was an angel, but they didn't say it was an angel. That's not clear who it
Yeah.
was that was with them, but I think it was a
Okay.
picture of, a God who manifests himself in any way, whether it's a person or a person who walks with Abraham, or in a fiery
Okay.
burning in a
Okay.
burning bush. God can speak from however he feels.
Okay. So yeah, I mean there may well be lots of examples of that, but the one I'm really asking you about is that Jesus in the New Testament is essentially the same being, the same individual as God in the Old Testament.
No, that okay. So um there's three different persons. I know, and Augustine said, "What a stupid word," but it's the only word we have to describe what God is a person. Uh, I mean, the Godhead, within the Godhead, there's three persons. Now,
Okay.
how that happens, how that is possible, I don't know. No one
Okay,
knows.
but nonetheless they are in agreement with each other.
Yes,
Right. So and there's a specific reason I'm asking this. It's when Jesus, a first century Jew,
yes.
says, "Not one jot or tittle of the law shall be removed." Which law was he talking about?
Well, half the laws cannot be kept without temple and sacrifice. So that when Jesus is addressing the law, he's talking about the entirety of the law, not
Yeah,
pieces.
yeah.
And for
The
him
entirety
being
of
a Jew,
which law?
so being a Jew, when he says law there, he's talking about all 613 commandments
That's what
that
I
were
thought.
written down.
That's what I thought. Because that fits with the constant unchanging God and the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That means then
Mhm.
that Jesus accepted both sets of Ten Commandments, yeah?
Jesus accepted what?
Both sets of Ten Commandments.
Four
There's the
sets?
first set,
Oh, okay.
both.
Yeah, go ahead.
two of them. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
the set from Exodus 20, and then there's a different set from Deuteronomy, as I'm sure you know. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus will have been happy with both of those,
Yeah.
including the sacrifices in Deuteronomy.
Right.
Yeah, would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right. It also means that the stuff in Numbers, in Exodus 21, the rules about um, slavery, and I mean the slavery of non-Jews. I don't mean the indentured servitude, which I get is there. I think that's bad enough. But the stuff about your non-Jewish slaves, he also agreed with all of that. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So
Right.
you got to understand the thing about slavery too, because the word slavery comes from the word Slav. The Slavics didn't come upon the scene until 400 AD. The
Yeah. Okay.
slavery,
But if you look at the description, what is meant in
no,
Exodus
no, we
21.
don't need to look at the description. We need to look at the word. The word in Hebrew is abed, which just means servant.
Okay.
So when you're talking about when you have these particular rules applied to Gentiles or people of other nations, that you shall not do these things on upon these particular people or slaves. But the word slave being used in the English is artificial because the word slave didn't come
Okay.
around
All right.
until 400.
Okay. I am more than happy to accept that linguistic reality.
All right.
But I'm going to use the word slave because that's the word that's used in the KJV. So KJV, yeah, KJV, King James Version.
Mhm.
You may buy your slaves from the heathen that surround you. Yeah. There's
Okay.
bits about if a man mistreats his slave. Um, oh yeah, if he gets if he beats him but he does not die within a day or two, the the owner who beat him should not be punished because he is his money.
Yeah.
He
I
is
think
his property.
I think we
That's
made him
slavery.
okay. I think you made a mistake by saying let's go ahead and use the word slave because that's what's in the King James Bible. What we ought to do is use the word servant and the
Well,
kind of
okay,
servitude,
all right.
the
Use
kind
the
of
word
servant.
servant.
Okay, the word servant here is where a person, because they didn't have ATMs, they didn't have credit unions, they didn't have a general
I'm not
universal
talking about
currency.
indentured servitude. That's for the Hebrew slaves, servants.
No,
I'm
no, but
talking
that's the
about for
same word.
non-Hebrew.
It's
I'm
this.
talking.
Okay,
Yeah, but
it's
if you read Exodus 21, the descriptions of what you can and can't do are very, very different. And then when you
okay,
get into non-Hebrew
okay.
female
Because I
slaves,
think what you're trying to do is equate chattel slavery that didn't come upon humankind, or actually it didn't
uh,
come upon the West until 1630.
well, I
Okay,
think what I'm trying to do, let me tell you what I'm doing. I am demonstrating that Jesus and God are in agreement, and that agreement is around things that are clearly immoral. We could go to Numbers
okay,
31 if you
okay,
like,
okay.
because that demonstrates, which is what I said I would. Well, last time we spoke, I'm sure you were trying to get me to accept a burden of proof for something I didn't say, but I will accept a burden of proof to say that the God of the Bible does not exist and cannot exist as described. And you cannot have an all good God of love who agrees with such barbarity. That's the
Okay,
point I'm making.
but you haven't made the case where
Well,
uh
not yet because I
well,
haven't completed it.
let me go ahead and finish. So you haven't made the case that somehow we can equate, chattel slavery to the kind of slavery that was taking place. Like I said, there's no
Well, you'd
credit
need to read
unions,
the chapter.
there's no banks, there's no
You'd
credit
need
unions.
you'd need to
Now,
read
now,
Exodus 21.
there's certain cases. This is the thing about humans today, living today. They don't understand. People don't understand what slavery is. Slavery can be a good thing because slavery is taking place right now in New Guinea where people sell themselves into slavery
I
as
think you'd have to
they
be fairly
finish.
desperate.
No, as this is slavery today. Is what people do. They sell themselves into slavery, like in New Guinea, and after they finish the contract, they move up in society. It's like getting an 850 credit
Yeah,
score.
but if
They
you
don't
are a
have
slave,
banks.
if you are a non-Hebrew slave, there is no contract end. If you were a non-Hebrew slave and your owner dies, he can pass you on to his children.
No, how do you
You
know
are
there's no
free.
contract? Wait a minute. How do you know there's no contract? It
You
says
buy the slave from someone else.
no, that we're talking about when you take a slave, it's talking about I can't remember exactly where it is, but it mentions slaves all over the place in the
Yeah.
Old Testament. But it's not talking about what you're trying to do is equate it to chattel slavery where people are working for free and being maltreated. That's not what it's talking
Don't
about.
don't need to
When a
equate it
person
to chattel slavery. Take it on its own
okay,
terms as
let's
described in Exodus 21.
okay, so those times were are much different than say
Right.
even time in
In what context is it moral to turn a human being into a workhorse?
no,
In
okay,
what context?
there is no such thing as that context existing anywhere in scripture to
Oh,
such
but
a
there is in
degree.
Exodus 21.
It doesn't say that in Exodus anywhere. Okay, so I can say a lot
All
of
right, the
things about I
people who are watching this, you are quite free to go and read Exodus 21. You'll find that it describes exactly what Luke's talking about,
okay.
which is that form of indentured servitude. But keep reading. Read what it says about non-Hebrew slaves, and then what it
Uh,
says about non-Hebrew female slaves.
okay, and if a
So yeah, I'm
person
happy to move on. I've
no
given
no no
people
no
the
no
reference.
not yet, not yet. Let me answer.
All right,
If a person has cares to look every time it says foreigner, every time it says traveler, sojourner, or alien, those words exist in Hebrew. Anywhere you look in the Old Testament, you're going to find that the treatment for those people is supposed to there's strict rules on how to treat them, and it's always you treat them well.
really,
That is the treatment that's described every time you look those get a concordance, look up those words, and you'll find that those words are attached to a command to treat people well. There's nothing in the Bible that says
okay.
treat. Okay, now let me answer something else because uh this keeps we're not getting the right context of what is going on back in that time. The
There
context of
is no
what happens.
context in which this is
Yes,
appropriate.
yes, there is.
Not to take away a person's
Yes,
liberty and
yes,
turn them
there
into a
is.
workhorse.
Yeah. If you'll go to Up from Slavery, chapter 7, halfway through, Booker T. Washington admits that slavery is the greatest thing to ever happen to the black race. That is a free slave saying that. Let me repeat that. Up from
No,
Slavery,
it's all right.
chapter
I heard what
7,
you said.
okay. And you got to ask
Uh,
yourself why. You got to be asking yourself this. Why is
and
he saying
how many black slaves, when they were enslaved, died trying to escape to gain their freedom? So one guy says that there's a black guy in the KKK, in Alabama. It doesn't
that? Okay.
mean that he's representative.
Okay, you're okay. Let me give you some context here. Booker T. Washington is the father of African American education. Okay, here in the
Okay,
United States, he is the man that educated. He walked 800 miles just to register for college.
okay.
So this
That doesn't
guy.
make him right on this.
No. Let me tell you why. There's a reason he said that the best thing to ever happen to the black race was chattel slavery. Now, before he actually says that in chapter again, it's Up from Slavery, chapter 7, about halfway through. There's a reason he says that. The reason he says that is because the people who were here at the time, because he's a free slave as well, found that there was opportunities that did not exist in back where they were as in the savannah, because these were not just any black person in Africa. They were captured by these were bushmen that were captured by other blacks from Dahomey, modern day uh, uh, Mali. So that's where they got the slaves. And the best thing that happened to slaves was their prayers and their crying out to God, and their worship here in the States, where they did discover Jesus and they discovered Christianity. And now we have in the United States more black professors than the rest of the world combined. We have more black millionaires than the rest of the world combined. So that it's almost prophetic.
Okay, but well, no,
It's
it's
almost
not prophetic, and there are so many social reasons why that could be so.
yeah.
Not least the size of the population of America, but equally, America is not. It's not Africa where people are living hand to mouth. So of course you're going to have more educated people, and you're going to have more millionaires.
Yeah, well,
But then
that's the
you need
reason.
to, but
That's
then you need to ask yourself why. Why is there the disparity there is between the industrialized West and the African nations? And there's a whole lot of geopolitics about that that actually does not put a good face on the West or on the Christian West, particularly when you consider that, yeah, you said, oh, the slaves found Jesus. Yeah, but they had a particularly interesting Bible that they were allowed that didn't have anything in about um, Moses and the slaves being freed or anything like that. That wasn't there. So you're
well,
seeing
let's get
this, but
back.
actually they were manipulated by religion.
Okay, let's get
But
back
let's
to what
get
I
back to the
said.
Bible.
No,
Let's
yeah,
get
let's
back
get
to
back
because
to
we
where I
said
was
we were
saying
going to. Well, we said we were going to
the
talk about
context.
religion, not American history.
Okay,
We
let's
said we
get
were
back
going to
to
talk about religion.
okay, let's get back to the point that I think you're trying to uh
I've made my
paint a
point.
picture. You're trying to paint a picture of what was going on as slavery. Again,
No, I'm trying to paint
it's
a picture of
indentured
the
servitude.
immorality of your God.
Well,
And I've made my
well,
point about slavery. It's done. Look at Numbers 31. Are you familiar with it?
verse 31 in what, Genesis
Num
21?
no, Numbers 31.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, Numbers 31. They come to a land that they quite like the look of. So Moses says, "Oh well, tell you what, lads. God said you can have it." So they go, and there's been a bit of um, interaction between some of the Hebrew men and the local women living there.
Okay.
So, because God says they can have it, Moses says, "Oh well, that was terrible. What happened there? That could damage our bloodline. That could be miscegenation. That could, which is a fairly racist sort of approach." So I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to go and you're going to kill everyone. You're going to take 1,000 from each of the 12 tribes of Israel, and you get 12,000 of these armed thugs. They go town by town and settlement by settlement, and they kill everyone. They knock all the buildings down. They kill all the livestock, except the only people that they don't kill are young girls who have not known a man. So basically, they're going to judge it by age, I guess. You're probably talking about girls 12, 13 or under. And those you will keep for yourselves. So basically, you've got these young little girls. They have they've just seen everyone and everything that they've ever relied upon murdered and butchered. They've been taken as captives. And well, people say, but it wasn't really sex slaves. Well, why did they have to be virgins? And whether
Okay.
it's sex slaves or not, in what context is genocide okay?
Okay. So it wasn't genocide because those days everyone was the same race. Everyone was Semitic. When we're talking about places like Nineveh
Okay, in
or
like I'm
Jericho,
not
the pe
interested in a pedantic argument about the words. In
But
what
you
interest
you're
is what I
saying,
have
but you're
just
saying
described?
you
Okay.
just made an accusation about a genocide. So let me answer your
Okay, I
accusation.
withdraw it. It's not genocide, it's mass murder
Okay.
and land
Now,
theft.
this it's
In what
you're calling
context
it
is that appropriate?
you're calling it mass murder. But if
Because
there
that's
is a
what it
God,
is.
if there is a God and he's commanding people to take certain lands because so much evil is being committed, just like the stuff we see in San Francisco going on, where people who are probably on your side because they're amoralists or moral relativists because
Uh,
they're driving around naked on a bike or riding around naked on a bike in a parade, exposing themselves to children.
please stop with the silly accusations about all atheists
That's
thinking
not an
this, that, or the
accusation.
other.
It's on
Well,
film.
you're probably on your side. Do you
So
think
is
I'm
that
into? Do you think? Do you really think that because I don't believe in your God, I think it's appropriate to wave my genitals in front of children? Really? Is that what you think?
no,
Because that's just
that's not the
nonsense.
conclusion
Then
I
you
was drawing.
withdraw that
I said
daft comment while you're at
I
it.
said if there are places that are really bad they're committing these horrible uh disgusting acts that I just mentioned. So I guess yeah, there's places that are doing that in the Old Testament as well. It's not a prescription, it's just a description of what's going on.
Well,
Um
actually, the problems that they had was they had sexual liaisons with some of the Hebrew men, and they worshipped a different god.
yeah, it
That
doesn't
was
say
it.
you admitted it didn't say anything about take these take these to have sex slaves. I don't think the Bible's ever says that.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
it
They're
does matter
taking them.
because I mean
Well, no, no,
you're
because look at
inserting
what
some
else.
you're
Look at
inserting
what.
commentary that's not necessary and it's made up of whole
Well, I
cloth.
think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that they have to be virgins. But I'm happy to say there is nothing in the Bible that says that they're going to be sex slaves. However, we still have an entire society destroyed, apart from some very vulnerable little girls, and some of them will be babies and all upwards up until puberty, probably, because I can't see how else they would have worked it out. Who
Okay.
were utterly traumatized. Everyone they know has been killed, and they are taken as captive or hostage or slave. Some, it's got to be one of those.
Okay.
In what
Now
context can any of that be
I'm going to give you
considered
I'm going to
moral?
give you the context. Okay, just let
Okay,
me speak. Let me speak. Okay. So
all right.
now we have that picture that I just painted of how much better things are going to be for all of the Bushmen who were in Africa but are now in the United States. And like I said, they are, of course, they're better off. Everybody knows they were better off, and that's the reason Booker T. Washington stated that in his book. Who is the father of black education here in America? The reason he said it is because people are better off. When you're talking about these particular incidents that are taking place in the Old Testament, people are better off being slaves under Hebrew people who are good people. The Hebrew people are
No,
good
wait,
people.
wait, wait. You're
Listen,
telling
you're not
these little
listening.
girls.
Okay.
Well, I am listening, and I just want to clarify what you're saying. You're telling me that these little girls are better off having their entire society and families and mothers and fathers and siblings killed and then
Okay.
taken away by those murderers.
Okay. Listen, there the a country that would be invaded for whatever reason, and the Bible does give us reasons that, and this goes back to virtually a lot of the societies that disappeared, like in the United States. The Mayans, the Toltecs were they were pre-Mayan. When the Mayans had a civilization, they imploded, and the Mayans here in the here in the Americas, the Mayan people were doing all these horrible things that you are having an issue with. Where we're talking about abuse, where we're talking about all kinds of sexual, uh, just unspeakable things that are being committed on children, even, and to such a degree they were even using children for human sacrifice. There were
I'm not
14,000
talking
people.
about the Mayans, though.
Okay, they were talking. Well, I'm showing you what was happening back. It doesn't go into description, but it does mention it in some situations in the
No,
Old
hang
Testament.
on. It
So
doesn't go
yes,
into a description. No, no,
so
hang
the
on, hang on. You wouldn't accept my inference about them being used sexually in Numbers 31. I'm not going to accept your inference that, oh, well, this is what the Mayans did, so it must have been the same.
no. So what I'm saying is it's very similar to what happened because they were using children as human sacrifices.
How
They
do you
were
know?
throwing there's 14,000 people that were thrown into the Chichen Itza
No,
pyramid.
no, no. Numbers 31. How do you know?
The I haven't read that, but I know what you're talking about. I've already I can
Okay.
answer these questions. I can they're easily
But,
answered. There
well,
is
if
no.
you can answer them, then do so, but don't do it by saying it's analogous with something else when you haven't even read the
Well,
chapter. You
but
don't know that.
it's
What you're
analogous
trying
because
to get to is
humankind.
divine what you're trying to get to is divine command theory, aren't you?
No, what I'm saying is that humankind universally is very much the same. They have these horrible practices that take place, and they do need to be taken out. For example, what was going on here in the Americas, like I said, whether it's cannibalism, whether it's human sacrifice, and if it is a god that does exist, who is a invisible god who is not material, then the most offensive thing that's going to be taking place is this paganism and this witchcraft and all this voodoo and all this
It
craziness.
will offend the god.
And so yes, and
But
so if
but but so
so
what?
God.
If no, listen seriously. If the god is so wonderful, then how does he get to be offended?
So what happens is that humanity progresses as God has taken and people, I don't know why they're indicting God as a bad person or a bad being, because
Well,
especially in
the other
atheists.
side.
Okay, so let me bring this to a complete circle,
Okay.
so I can make a final statement, and I'll let you close, and I'm not going to rebut you. You can just go ahead and have the last word.
Well, let
So,
me finish the
uh,
argument first because we
go
haven't got
ahead.
there yet.
All right, go ahead.
All I want to do, it's very simple, is say that if you, sorry, I won't say you, if your God orders that sort of stuff, you may well think that it's okay because God orders it. But my argument is very simple. That is not a loving, moral God. Therefore, it's not as described in the Bible, and therefore my original point stands. The God of Abraham, as described in the Bible, is not real and cannot exist.
Okay, so let me address it from the beginning. Your position and your argument is that because certain things that don't seem to be worthy of God as his part of his attributes, and they're described in the Old Testament, and we're
And
talking
the New
about whether
Testament and the
no,
New.
there's
That's
there's
why I
nothing.
related them at the start.
Yeah, there's nothing in the New Testament. If anybody was a slave, it was the Jews. The
No,
Jews
no,
are
no,
the ones.
no. That's why I made the point about not one jot or tittle of the law shall be removed. Jesus supports all this stuff. That was
Okay,
what that was
so
about.
yeah, but we're talking about what was taking place during their time, because also Jews would be slaves, because it mentions it in the Old Testament, not be slaves. Yeah, well, it does, because when a Jew is a slave, they're not required to keep all of uh, the law at all. That's
Yeah,
why
but there are
that's why Paul says there's neither free nor Jew. There's no free. There's no neither free nor slave. There's neither Greek nor Gentile. There's neither male or female, because only a free male Jew is obligated to keeping the entire 613 commands that we're talking about.
okay. Nonetheless, that law involves stuff like
So
If
yeah. So let
if a young
give me 2
woman
minutes.
is raped within the city
Okay.
and does not scream out, and
Okay.
I'm sure you can imagine her being too
All right.
frightened to do so, then she will be deemed to be complicit and shall be stoned to death.
Okay. Let
That's
me
part of that law.
give me 2 minutes. Just give me 2 minutes. Again, I want to bring this around full circle so we can understand what's going on and how I think I should be approaching this, because what you're saying is that there's circumstances that are you're pulling out, just pulling them out of the Old Testament, saying, yeah, this person's being sold, this person's being bought. So slavery exists. Slavery didn't exist like it did between I guess
Read
1630
Exodus 21.
and 1865, because
I'm not
you're
interested
making a
in
false
American history.
you're
Read
making a
Exodus
false
21.
when I say 1630, that started in England, actually, where you're at.
Well, okay. I'm not interested in English history in this context either. I'm talking about what's written
But
in
you're
Exodus
equating them. That's
21.
the problem.
No, you're doing that. I'm not.
You're the one that's bringing up the word slavery, and when people hear that, what they're thinking about is late 19 or mid 19th century chattel slavery in England and in Europe and in
Okay.
the West here in the United States.
That's why I
So
said I'm quite happy to.
that's a false equivocation. That's
Well,
not being honorable to the
that's why
history.
I said I'm quite happy to use the word servant, but read Exodus 21.
Yes,
It's what's
and if you
described there.
understand the context, like, and I haven't been able to get this out, when a country is set apart from God, as Israel is, they have to go. They have to abide by certain rules, and those rules have to be humanitarian. Like they need to
You can
be.
beat your slave so long as he doesn't die within a day
So
or two.
the slaves that were being taken with them, they're going to die anyway if they were wiped out because of a command by God to take over a certain land. We have the Canaanites as an example. They told them to take everything, but like I said,
Yeah, because they wanted the land of Canaan, because it was promised to them.
yeah, and that was
To
what.
hell with the ordinary, innocent people who were already
Yeah,
living
that's
there.
your assumption. That's your assumption that these people were wonderful, perfect, and
No, I
beautiful,
didn't say that. I said they were
and they were
ordinary.
probably the people. What I'm saying is that these people are better off being under the care of uh the Jewish tribes during 1500 years before Jesus, when this was
Just
taking place, because that's when the law was
listen to
given.
you.
These
Listen
people,
to yourself.
but we see it taking place now. That's why I gave you the example that the people in the bush in Africa, in the savannah, are better off here in the States, because you can't make an argument saying that they were better off just left alone, because they're the disease that occurs, the savagery that was taking place, the child abuse that was taking place, the cannibalism, the sacrifice, the paganism, all this stuff that is a stench in the nostrils of God. These things are, they were transformed
Right.
by coming over here, and there's no one that can argue to say
Okay.
that this is a bad thing.
There are many
Nobody,
ways. There's an
even a
easy
freed
way to
slave,
argue.
just like
There
I
is
said,
an easy way to argue this, Luke. You said a stench in the nostrils of God. Two problems with that. One, demonstrate God's real, because otherwise you're just making an excuse to kill people. And two, if God is so wonderful, who gives a toss if he's got a bad smell? Can't he magic it away?
okay, let me answer that.
Yeah, please do.
The point that you just made right now, saying that anything could, how can anything be an extension of the nostril of God? You yourself are reacting to the moral uh instincts that you have been equipped with as a human being. So all
No.
of us have been equipped with this, and that you could look at something and say, well, that's pretty beneath my way of judging human behavior, because my conscience is bearing over me to such a
I'll
degree,
tell you
it
this,
makes
Luke.
me angry. It
I'll
makes
tell you
you
this.
angry.
I'll tell you this, Luke. Well, I'm not really angry. I'm a little irritated at some of the things that you're saying, because it's clear that you are better than that, and that annoys me. But I wouldn't say I'm angry. I haven't been actually angry for decades, but I'm annoyed because you are doing yourself a disservice. You're better than somebody who would
No,
defend the stuff
but who? But if
in
you're an
Numbers
atheist,
31.
now
If I'm an atheist, what?
we can yeah. But if you're an atheist, there's no reason for you to judge anything on a moral standard. There's no standard
No, no,
upon
that's
which
just
you,
nonsense. Moral morality does not come from God.
yeah,
That's just
no,
nonsense.
yeah. Morality cannot possibly
I
come.
have, I have a moral standard which is based upon being a part of a social species, and morality is about um, making sure that society works and people flourish.
So you're talking
And
about.
but listen, let's just compare these. This comes from Tracy Harris, but it's a brilliant little analogy. If I walked into a room and saw a grown man raping a child, I would do everything in my power to stop that happening for the child's sake. Would
But
you?
but if you're an atheist,
Would you? Would
there's no
you?
reason. Yeah, but that
Yeah,
could that,
there is a reason. And I'll tell
but
you what the reason is. I have compassion for the child.
yeah, but
Your
what?
God says,
Why?
you go
Who?
ahead, do that, and when you're finished, then I'll sort you out.
Yeah, but
I'm
there's no
sorry, I
reason.
am way more moral than your God.
Yeah, but you're not giving us any reason to be moral. You're saying that
I did give
we
you a
evolved as a
reason. The
social
reason
species.
is
You're
compassion.
you're
Yeah.
saying that we were yeah, but even if we were evolved as a social species through this mechanism of evolution and
Yep.
not just you know as an animal like all the other animal every other organism animal
Well, we
kingdom.
are. We're part of the animal
But
kingdom.
why
We're
why is
apes.
it? Because when an aardvark eats uh a bunch of ants, no one is calling that aardvark a murderer. So if a human being decides to eat
No,
other human beings, why is there suddenly a judgment? It may be unappealing to you. It may be um something
it.
that
I
does
think
not
it would depend
align with your
largely on
preferences.
the circumstances. If, for example, those people are already dead and that person is also going to starve to death unless he eats his dead friend, I personally would think, yeah, I can understand that. That's reasonable. If he's going to kill someone to eat them, that's different. That's not appropriate because killing people is an immoral act. And I'll tell you why I call it immoral, because I know that's where you're going next. Is you'll say I care about morality. The reason it is immoral is because our moral code, which is basically just a code of appropriate and inappropriate behavior when you get right down to it, it is not appropriate for our society to go around killing each other. And that's why over generations we've got better and better at not killing each other, because humans won't flourish unless we value human life. It's not complicated.
But
And
who
it
says
doesn't need a god.
flourishing is a good thing? Because
We do.
well, what about all the starvation that's taking place? If
Well, I
anybody's
think it's appalling.
then you're saying that because they decided to have to procreate, that the flourishing may be in fact a bad thing.
No, I'm
So
not. No, I'm not.
now you're
No, I'm not saying that at all. And
starving
if
is
you want to
starving.
put it, if you want to put it in a religious context,
No, I'm not. I'm actually going just
who
to
the hell sent
sociological
the
analysis.
droughts?
Okay.
Who made their crops fail?
Yeah, it's if according to you, it's just the way it is. And in fact, we're all going to
Well,
die.
yes, because it is. Of course, we're all going to die. But this is from your perspective as a Christian. Nothing happens that God doesn't want to happen. He's in command of it all, isn't he? So who sent the drought? And that's moral too, I suppose. I am more moral than your fictional God, and so are you.
Again, you're not you're basing all your morality on something that is relative, and relativism could say
Of course,
could of relative
your morality is relative too.
no well because what you just brought up saying that the uh drought caused a lot of people to starve and that's a bad thing and that's
Right.
immoral. Well, wait a minute.
Where do
Why
your
isn't
morals
it?
come
Well,
from?
why isn't it that? Why isn't it good? Why isn't it? Why
Where
can't we look
do
at it?
your morals come from?
My morals come from a lawgiver, a God who is the standard,
Right. Okay.
all right and wrong, and He is all
Right.
good. Now
Are
you
you
don't
familiar with
have
the
one.
youth? Are
Is
you
the
familiar
problem
with the? Are you familiar with the Euthyphro dilemma?
with the use of what?
Euthyphro dilemma.
Oh yes, go ahead. Yeah, I know what that
Right.
is.
Yeah. Okay. So, are these laws good because God says they're the law? Is it that God says it that makes it good, or are they good anyway? In which case, it doesn't matter whether God says it or not. We just, as long as we are aware of it. Which of those is true? Is it good because of what God says, or is it good anyway and God's just the mouthpiece?
Okay, you're bringing up the Euthyphro dilemma, which has already been answered because you're suggesting that there's only two possible
Okay, well, what else?
alternatives.
Well, come
There's
on then, give me your answer, whatever it is. If it's a third way, fine.
Yeah. So if there's a third alternative, then there's no dilemma.
So,
You,
what's the
you,
third alternative?
so the third alternative is that God may have a certain reason, and we're not in any particular position to be judging whether or not God can use uh, certain situations uh, for better outcomes in the future. Because
No, I'm asking in general terms, though. Is it good because God says it's good, or is God saying what's already good?
okay, because God Himself is all good and it's His nature. That's the third alternative because what you're suggesting is that there's only two. That's why it's a dilemma because it's one or the other, and there's not that doesn't exist. Anyone can go look up. Uh, this has been abandoned a long time ago. Um, I'm kind of surprised that you're bringing it up. I mean, this has already been answered. We've already
Well,
uh,
not
this isn't,
satisfactorily, as far as I'm aware.
yeah, but you're
See,
saying,
what you seem to be saying is, I'm going to pretend that the third answer is this is why God chooses, but it's still then one or the other.
yeah, anyone can go look and see how this has been taken apart. I can't remember the guy who first came up with this. This was in the 60s. Um, but
It's a
yeah,
new one on
this
me.
people who are amateurs, they keep bringing this up. You need to go and look up these particular arguments that you're bringing up before you bring them to me because they've already
I,
been answered.
Luke,
God,
Luke,
God,
I'm
human.
quite familiar with Euthyphro,
Okay, and
and,
so
and
are you saying?
I'm
Are
not
you
aware
saying?
of a, I'm not aware of a satisfactory rebuttal to this.
Okay, so the third alternative exists. Um, it's not God is the source. The third alternative is because it's a false dilemma because God is the absolute grounds and standard for good.
Well, then
That's the
it's
answer.
well in that case it's good because God says it's good, and God's
No,
the source. So you're still on the same dilemma,
no, it's not. It's not this. That's not the same. God is the standard and the He is the oh the ground. He's the anchor that uh and trying to bring up an immoral situation that makes it look like he's the one who defines whether something is good or bad.
I'm asking you. I'm not telling you.
No, well, because he's the standard of all good, and uh, the thing,
So
the
if
problem.
he's so it's good because he says so. Then if he's the standard,
No, he's good. God is good because he is. That is his nature, and
right?
you'll find this.
So what he says is good because he says so, and his nature is to be good. That's what you're saying, is it?
But it's not that because he says so. It's because that's his nature. You're
Well,
saying if
okay,
God.
but all right, but in in the practical sense, If he doesn't say so, we wouldn't know. So the shorthand is God said it, therefore it's good because God can't say anything that isn't good.
Because God's nature is good. Any
Yeah, okay.
anything that would appear to you and me to look unworthy of his character, the attributes of what is good, is not it does not
Right.
give or take whether or not
So
God is
so
the
let me ask
standard of good.
another question then. Because God apparently ordered that, I'm not going to say genocide, that mass slaughter. I'm assuming that you'll agree that's accurate. That mass slaughter in Numbers 31. God ordered that, apparently, according to you and according to your Bible. Therefore, that must be good. Are you actually arguing that that mass slaughter is a good thing?
Well, God being all knowing, God being all powerful and omniscient and omnipresent, it may appear to a finite human being that what he's doing is evil because he is allowing the end of a human life to take place
Are you
under his direction.
are
Now,
you
but
are
if God,
you
if
suggesting that it was a good thing?
it very much well could have been, because if anything,
But was
uh,
it?
if God does kill people and he does, he's the author of life, we can't take that standard upon which God is and his being, the characteristics of his being, and apply it to our standards, because it's very much like a child who is saying, who walks into their parents' room and says,
Right.
it's
I'm
eight
not
o'clock,
asking you.
it's 8:30, it's 8:30, why are you guys up watching TV?
I'm
8:30 should
asking you.
8:30 should apply to everybody, and that's not the case.
I'm asking you about one specific event in Numbers 31, the mass slaughter of an entire civilization, apart from the little girls. Are you saying that that was a good thing?
But you can't judge it whether it's good or bad anyway. But
All right. So you're
if
saying
I
it's
can't,
possible that what God ordered wasn't good?
well, I can't, I'm not in any position to say whether or not God
Right.
in this world, this is his planet, this is his system, this is his program. Why, who am I? Who are you to judge?
I'm a sentient being.
But you're
It matters
emotional.
not. It matters not where I came from. I am a sentient being with the right to make sense of the world as I see it.
So, if we would have annihilated, if we, I'm sorry, if we would not have annihilated the Nazis, because the Christian worldview has always kept a
Luke,
justifiable
Luke,
war.
forgive me. Please just give me 30 seconds. I need to sort my dog out. I will be right back. I promise you.
All
Hold
right,
that thought about World War II.
all right.
Luke, I'm really sorry about that.
That's all right.
You were talking about Nazis in the Second World War.
Yeah. So, eliminating an evil because God has sufficient reason for it does not put me in any position to judge him in any way. For example, if God had not allowed the Nazis to be annihilated in World War II, things could have been worse off for Europe and for the rest of the world. Because, but
I'm
you're
not
not,
sure that it was
again,
God that allowed that. I think that was more about the Allies.
well, if God, the Allies are on the side of good, then God is good. Then God may have
But
allowed it, because
there is
are
no
you, because,
evidence.
but you're not, again, you're not in any position to know that that would have been good or bad. But whether
Well,
the
I think I
numbers
can.
31 is good or bad. Now we are in a good
Well, no,
position.
no, hang on. World War II was fought because of an expansionist, racist, fascist, authoritarian policy. it had to be fought. You could actually argue that for most of the peoples of the world, it was an act of self-defense against the Axis.
Then why can't you apply that
Now,
to
well,
why can't
I'm just about to make that case. Numbers 31, these people were living on their land until the Hebrews decided that their God had given it to them. And there's no guarantee that that was true. I still haven't got any evidence that there is such a God. But they went and attacked people who had not attacked them. The worst they'd done to them is some of the women had had sex with some of the Hebrew tribesmen. That's the worst they'd done. They hadn't enslaved the Hebrews, they hadn't invaded their land. It was quite the opposite. So if you want to use the World War II analogy, the Nazis are analogous with the Hebrews because the Hebrews were the invaders and the Hebrews were the slaughterers. So if you're saying that it was good that the Nazis were defeated, and I agree with you, then it would also have been good had the Hebrews been defeated because they were behaving in exactly the same way.
yeah, but the Hebrews are not the ones who uh are the ones that were aggressive. That you're saying because
Oh,
when I
but
say
they
aggressive,
were.
listen.
Read Numbers 31.
How do you know that the Canaanites were not aggressive? Because they could have been. But again, you're not in any position to
Right,
do
but
to
Numbers 31, it is really clear what
okay.
the reasons for this were.
Okay, you're not in any position to know what would have transpired after if they had not done that, and if
I am in a
God had
position
it.
to know that it's
But we
wrong to
know
kill children.
what we do know is that you're in a good position living in a Christian country where Christianity has been allowed to uh, flourish in society and people's behavior, because you certainly don't want to live in a an atheist country. You certainly don't want to live in North Korea. But
Well, no, but I'd quite like to
but
live in Denmark.
but then and what the settlers were being called here in this in America were people who were following manifest destiny. That is, the United States of America is the result of people coming and taking the land from other people.
Yeah, no,
but
and
what you're
it's
doing,
appalling.
yeah. But what you're doing is you're saying that we would have been better off had they not done that. And of course
Yeah,
that's nonsense. Because
that's not nonsense.
the people that were here in America were, again, like I said, they were committing all kinds of atrocities. They were they were abusing children and even sacrificing them and even eating other human beings. They were doing these things that were just horrible. And because they were doing these things, who knows what the Canaanites were doing? Uh, but they got invaded. We're not in any good position. You're trying to, and the thing is, what's kind of frustrating is that you're trying to judge something on a moral grounds when you don't believe that morality is actually objective and real. You're saying you admitted that it evolved with us. So if genocide evolves with us, it must be a good thing. And you can actually um, take some of the moral things that are abhorrent to human
Wait,
beings.
wait, 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 wait. If something evolved with us, it must be a good thing. What are you talking about?
What you're saying is that we can judge it based on uh human flourishing, because
Yeah, but
genocide.
I'm not committing the naturalistic fallacy. I'm not assuming that everything that is in the natural world must be good.
Well, you can't
That's
say if anything's
nonsense.
good. Yeah, if you're an atheist, you can't say anything's good, even if you're an agnostic too.
That's not true. You know that I can
Because
say that things are good. That's just that daft nonsense that gets trotted out from pulpits about, oh, atheists don't know right from wrong. It's
but
bollocks,
but
man. You know it's
but then I'll
bollocks.
then I'm going to ask you, where do you get where's the standard? Where do you get it from? And you're saying it's
Well,
relative.
I've
And
told you where it comes,
if it's relative, then it's not real.
but so is yours. Yours is relative too.
No, it's not relative because I believe that a God
Right.
is a standard.
Right. You would not, I don't think, you would not condone child sexual abuse, would you?
I don't condone any sexual abuse, of course,
Right. Okay. I
but
didn't think you would. I didn't
but
think you would. However, when it happens in the Old Testament, you think it's all right. And I'm not talking about Numbers 31 here. I'm talking about things like raped women being married to their rapists and stuff like that.
okay. So things are allowed to happen for whatever reason, and we have a
That's
lot of questions.
relative.
And yeah,
It's
so it's
it's
not relative. It's
relative.
it's it's that because God may have sufficient reason to do and or allow these things to happen, and they're described. He's not prescribing rape. He never does that. If anything, is that if God prescribes anything, it's love towards others. It's putting others
Right.
before
He's
yourself.
taking a rape victim and putting her in a
No, no,
situation for the
no.
rest of her life where she has to marry the man who raped her and presumably will continue to do so.
Yeah. So what you're saying is this is God's command, and that's not true. Now, these are things that are happening. These are things that are
Well, it's in the Bible,
yeah, it's in
and
the
this
Bible.
is
These
what
are
you have to do.
again, these are descriptions, not prescriptions. There's
No,
a
they no, they're prescriptions.
no, where are
It
they
is
prescribed?
off the top of my head, I don't know, but it'll be easy to look up.
Where
Just
no,
Google it.
where is it prescribed for someone to rape and or harm a child? It's not prescribed.
No, not to harm a child. No, that was a different analogy that I was
Where is
gonna
it
go down.
prescribed for someone to rape? I mean, that's the last thing you mentioned.
Well, it is prescribed that if a man rapes another man's daughter, because it's all about the daughter is property, then he has to pay the father 30 shekels, I think it is, might be 50 shekels, and marry her, and they may not divorce. So basically, is what it's doing is ensuring that this woman can never escape from her rapist.
Okay. So what you're assuming is that the father is just going to go ahead and because in many situations, and this is probably the reason God allows certain things like these to happen, is because the people were supposed to continue on a growing and societal cohesion as they grew and expanded throughout the land that God had promised them. Now,
As society
some
evolved, you
things,
mean?
yeah, but you're saying that these things are evil. But again,
Yeah,
you have no reason to say it is.
yeah, huh? I know what's right and wrong.
But you maybe like Epicurus, his view was if something is painful, then therefore it is evil. And that's ridiculous, of course. We know that that's ridiculous because
I haven't said that. I wouldn't say
having a
that.
having cancer removed or having a bad molar removed or something, those things are painful, but those things are good.
Yeah, why are you going down this road? I never said that, and I don't believe that.
No, this is but what you're telling me is you're reacting to a ethic that was projected by Epicurus. Anything that seems painful is not good, and I don't like it, and
No,
therefore,
I'm not. I'm
but
saying that
again,
rape is
but
wrong.
but again, like I said, you're in no position to judge God to be whether
I am.
yeah,
I
you're
am.
not in any good
Uh,
position to say someone shouldn't be killed.
Right. I am absolutely in a position to restate the thing I accepted the burden of proof for, which is that I believe that the God of Abraham, as described in the Bible, does not and could not exist because that is not a God of love. That is a
Okay,
sadistic, capricious, cruel tyrant.
so what you're doing is you're telling me that you're reacting to the obvious moral instincts that we all possess, and they don't
Well,
exist.
that's
They
one.
don't exist. They don't exist in any other species or organism. People say,
Yeah,
"Well,
they
look
do.
at baboons,"
Yeah, they
but they're
do.
just cooperating so they can survive. It's not either good nor evil.
Yeah, and there are
Ants. There's
dogs.
lots of things. There's lots
There
of
are
things.
there are dogs that will get indignant on behalf of others if they sense unfairness. There are
Yeah,
all sorts of what's it called? There's a book by I read it. It's a really good book. Uh,
so I
is
got to
it
run.
evolution?
Yeah, I got
Okay,
to
well,
run. But
do you want
let
the
me.
last word?
Well, you can, but I just want to point this out. Number one is that the understanding of what slavery is not well understood by lay people like you and me in our
Read
society
Exodus
in the
21.
West.
It describes it.
Let's just say in the West, because people try to conflate both the biblical practice of slavery and what took place a
I'm
hundred
going on the biblical
50 years.
description in Exodus 21.
Yeah, but that's not a good description because the word that you're using is not
Forget
equivalent.
the word. Forget the word.
It's because
Read
there
any
again,
version you like. Forget
and
the
so
word. Read any version you
and
like.
so if
What
anybody
is what
wants
is
to,
described
they
is in
can look,
Exodus 21.
they can look and see that back in that time, again, the only way you could pay off certain debts was by being a slave, and you were
Yeah,
happy to
I'm not
do it.
talking about indentured servitude.
Yeah.
That's there in Exodus 21, and then it talks about slaves. Use whatever word you like, but it describes a completely
Again,
different
and I wasn't able,
situation.
and I was not able to expand on what I wanted to say about the slavery where people were actually slaves and they were put as prisoners, and they were, because this is what happens when you're a, if a person, there's so many things I can say. If they were to invade a country and then they were supposed to take slaves in some situations, they weren't in others, and we don't know why. The Bible doesn't say, only God knows. That's why we leave it in God's hands, because this is his program again. These are his people. He can take life and give it, but you're not
Uh,
giving any credit to God when he gives life. You're
well, I
just giving.
can't give
You're just
any
trying to take
credit
it away.
to.
You're
I
just
can't
trying to
give.
take it away from God, but by when he
I
takes life.
can't. I cannot give credit to a fictional being. I'm not even condemning God. I'm simply making the point that in this fiction, the God that is described as the God of love and fairness and all things good and puppy dogs' tails cannot exist as described. That's the
Okay.
only point I'm making. I'm not taking anything away from God because God isn't real. God doesn't exist.
So
Not that God. There may be, as we talked about last time, there may be some deity hiding somewhere I've never heard of, but that God cannot exist.
just because you don't like him, and that's the point. That's not a
No, it's
good
not because
position
I don't like him. It's because
to.
it is too. There are too many internal contradictions. And we could actually go to more literal contradictions if you want. We could go to differing accounts of the Nativity, differing accounts of the Passion. We could go to conflicting apparent sayings of Jesus. There's all sorts of stuff that we could go to demonstrate this. We just happened to go down this road. We didn't need to.
Okay, so again, when people, and I think I've already demonstrated this, when people are asked, when God's people are asked to take over a land and conduct a certain system of helping the people that are in this war-torn state to be able to thrive again, they must attach themselves to people who are thriving and under God's direction. Because if you go into a land and take their land and uh, have it's war torn, the people who are going to suffer are going to be the people who are left behind. They would be better off if they were attached to the tribe of Israel. To that way they
So,
can.
okay,
Okay, so
let me
this is
let
now
me
this is
let me say
I've
back
already
to
made
you.
points. I've already
Let me
made points.
paraphrase. Let me paraphrase that to you. What you seem to be saying is when the Hebrews invade your land, they will destroy it. It will not be a place that you can survive in without the benefits that come from being being attached to the Hebrew conquerors. Therefore, Hebrew conquerors good. What?
Yeah, because like I said, because God is in a position to know what would happen if the conquering didn't take place. The problems would have metastasized for a, a greater deal of people. Very much like I said, just like I
So
said,
it's okay to kill children then?
it, if it's going to be a potential Hitler, you don't think that would be good? If Hitler was killed when he was 8 years old, would that have been good?
The problem is we're not
But you
talking
don't
just
know
about.
this. This is my point.
No, no, listen. We're not
You don't know
talking.
these things. God is all knowing.
We're not talking about a child. We're talking about every male.
Okay,
There will
the
have been
Nazis,
as
Himmler,
many boys.
Stryker,
There will have been as
Ribbentrop.
many. There will have been as many boys as there were girls. Moses took a portion, just a portion of those girls who were sacrificed to God. 32,000
So
sacrificed to
you're
God.
not, again, my point is being overlooked. You're not directly dealing with it
And
because
neither are
God
you
is
with mine.
omniscient, because God is all knowing, because he knows what's going to happen in the future.
Well, he's not though,
If
is he? Because he gets surprised all the time.
If God would have taken out Rudolf Hess, Heinrich Himmler, Martin Bormann, uh, Dietrich von Ribbentrop, and Joseph
Right.
Goebbels,
God's not omniscient.
and Goring, and all these Nazis.
Your God is not omniscient.
Would he? This is my question. If there was a force that took them out when they were 8, 9, and 10 years old, would that have been good or not?
Your question is based on a false promise, which is that God is omniscient. God is not omniscient. He was surprised by Adam and Eve eating the apple. He was surprised by the devil turning against him. He was surprised when people got so bad he had to flood the earth. Everything goes wrong for God because he's got no idea
Okay,
what's going to happen next.
now
He
you're
is not
talking about
omniscient.
other things that we have answers to, but that's a
God's not
non-answer.
omniscient, though.
That's circular reasoning, what's taking place
No,
here.
it's
Because I asked
no,
you
it's not.
directly,
It's
I
not.
asked you directly a question and it was specific, and you could have answered
Okay,
yes or
if
no.
all right, if a force,
If those people were
do you
taken
want me
out,
to answer your question?
okay,
If
go ahead.
a force took out the senior Nazis, and in particular Adolf Hitler and Rudolf Hess, if a force took them out when they were children, yeah, the chances are World War II would not have happened. That would have been better. But
Okay,
the false
okay.
premise
So
is,
what
well,
you're
no,
doing?
no, wait, no,
Okay,
no, wait. The false premise is this: there is no force capable of predicting that. And it's very clear from the Bible that your God is regularly surprised.
okay, okay. What you're talking about is another issue that's not even here nor there, because you'd have to believe in uh all these things that you're talking about, that where God is surprised, that God marveled at the behavior of somebody. That is not against him being uh not omniscient. That has nothing to do with it. He even knows that he if he would be marveled, but God in very many instances has these human feelings, these
So did
feelings that
God know?
because
Did God
we're
know
made,
that
we
Adam
are
and Eve were
God.
going to eat? Did God
We
know about the fall?
Yeah.
The fall from the Garden
Yes,
of Eden?
we're going off on another thing.
No, no,
But
yeah, but did he know?
I just asked you a
Did
question
God
about
know that that was going to happen in advance?
yes, of course, God's all
Right, and
knowing.
he still created the conditions where it could, so that everybody following could be punished for something they had nothing to do with. I didn't eat any apples in Eden. Did you?
Okay, I mean, we can keep doing this, but
Yeah,
we're
we can.
engaging
It's
in circular.
obvious.
We're engaging in circular reasoning.
No, we're not. This isn't
I'm saying
circular.
because God is omniscient, and that's what we hold to.
But he's clearly
But
not.
If there's
Or
a
if he
God,
is, he's
okay.
evil.
If there's a God and he is omniscient, forget about all the other things that you're going to say about whether a God was angry at someone, or God was disappointed. He was disappointed in Onan in Genesis chapter 10, because he was, and then we ask questions, but we ask questions as human beings to make sense for us. It's not, has nothing to do with God being ignorant. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous
Well,
position.
if God isn't ignorant, why did he make such a pig's ear of everything? If he's
Such a what?
omniscient, a pig's ear, a mess. If if your God knows in advance everything that's going to happen, which is part of being omniscient, then
Right.
how did he get things so spectacularly wrong that he had to kick Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden, and he had to drown everybody apart from a drunk and
Okay.
his kids?
Again, you have no reason to say that anything is good or evil. This is the
Oh,
point
no,
of
no, this is a
that's
ridiculous cop out. I
no, it's
do
not a cop
understand
out.
morality,
Because number one, I like I said, in order for you to be an atheist, you must believe that good and evil don't exist. And this is explained by the greatest atheist. Even
I agree. I don't know
okay,
that there has ever
then
been
why are you
what's
judging?
the
Because
greatest
we've been
atheist?
spending
What
all
does
this
that mean?
time talking about
I
whether or not
agree that
something's
good
good.
and evil do not exist, but there are appropriate and inappropriate behaviors.
But it's not appropriate if you're a relativist, because killing Jews is a good thing if you're a Nazi. And
No,
not
it's
only
not. There,
no, it
look,
is.
look.
If you're a
No, it's
Nazi,
not. It's not. No, it's not. You see, you seem to think that relativist covers all bases. Well, I actually, in my personal life, I'm a Stoic, and in my dealings with the world, I'm a utilitarian, but not the Bentham version, the fixed rule based, the John Stuart Mill version, where it's the greatest good for the greatest number. Now, all of that morality can be traced back to principles that we're discovering through evolutionary psychology. But if you want to give me a moral framework, or or label me with one, it's Stoicism and utilitarianism. I'm also a humanist, but that's slightly different.
but because we have language, we're able to define whether something is good or bad. And
Yeah.
if a society adopts something that defines a certain act to be good,
No, because this is why I
then
made
it becomes good. Then it
this is
becomes
why I
good.
made this is why I made the distinction between Bentham, who was rule based, who the originator of utilitarianism, who probably would have agreed with you, and John Stuart Mill, who basically injected some more reasonable common sense. So, for example, Bentham would probably have said it is good for a society to have slaves because the majority of society will benefit from the work of the few. Whereas John Stuart Mill, I think, improved upon utilitarianism and said, look, there are some red lines that, you can follow this to ludicrous um, dimensions. There are some red lines. There are some things that just are not appropriate because they cause significant harm. And that would include things like the genocide of the Jews
Okay, so
or rape.
what John Stuart Mill wasn't doing either was being able to analyze this three-dimensionally in the future, what would happen to blacks here in the West
Well, of
had they
course
not,
not. Nobody can see the future.
because they were taken from the savannah, because they were taken from
Yeah.
the bush in Africa,
No,
because now universally what it means,
I'm sorry.
it's
I
almost,
do not. I'm sorry. This is really, really bizarre. You seem to be seeing that slavery for black people in the Americas and in this country was somehow a good thing.
I'm not the one that's saying that. I told you that
Right.
a freed
Do
slave,
you believe it?
because of what it means, yes, it's true, because we've got
So
more
you do
blacks
believe
that are,
that black slavery was a good thing?
because their life expectancy when they were now in the tens of
Yes
millions,
or no? Was it a
because
good thing?
because like I said, in
Right.
Up from
This
Slavery
is
from
what
Booker
your
T. Washington,
Christianity
chapter
does to
7.
you.
This
This
is
is
why,
what your Christianity has done
but
to you.
you're not thinking profoundly. You need to think profoundly on this
I'm
because
thinking, I'm just thinking in an, a common sense,
let me
reasonable way that slavery is not a good thing.
okay, let me share some numbers with you, okay? 1.3 million people were slaves in the Americas in 1865 when they were freed here in the America here in the United States. Since then, since then 97%, more than 97% of all blacks that have ever lived in the United States lived after slavery. So the vast majority that blacks have been here in the United States, they were here as free people. So only until you were able to have people come from the savannah and Africa in the bush, the bushmen of the savannah, being captured, taken by the people in Dahomey, modern day Mali, and then put into the slave triangle where they were distributed in the West. This is just in the United States. 97% of them have existed, have lived after slavery. So the
Okay.
vast majority of blacks in America have have were better off, have been better. Had they stayed in Africa, they would have suffered a lower life expectancy, a lot more suffering, a lot less healthy,
Um,
and a lot. The more important thing, the more, less intellectual. And now they are the vast majority are Christian. So yes, I do see a great thing that happened there.
so you actually believe that slavery can be justified?
Well, in the grand scheme of things, obviously it is a good thing because, like I
Well, see,
said,
I don't think it is a good thing. I would dispute a lot of what you've just said.
so you would talk to a black person in America and say you were better off to stay in the savannah.
Oh, it depends if they're in the middle of Alabama in the 1960s. Yeah.
The answer is no, sir, because
No, no. The answer is not no.
the thing that came the thing
Africa
that
is a
came
big
about
continent.
the thing that came about
Africa's a
from this
huge continent.
is
Not
okay.
everywhere in Africa is
Yeah,
drought ridden and people starving and full of HIV.
yeah. The
Africa is a big
understanding
continent.
taking a whole understanding of what's going on here is that what oh my goodness, I just forgot my train of thought here. So I was going to make another important point that was aside from everything we were talking about related to this, and it had to do. Okay, I forgot. Okay, but maybe let me say again. Maybe I'll remember um, that. Okay, yes, now I remember. Okay, it's the it's this is the point. It's not that they were just physically good, they were physically healthy. It actually has transformed your mind and my mind that these things have to happen in order for a person to be an enlightened, civilized human being. Because the Romans were civilized, but they were not enlightened. The reason that this had to happen is so we could progress as a human species as an
Right. Whoa, whoa,
enlightenment.
whoa. Okay, I
Listen,
want to do my
now
rephrasing
let
again.
me
I want to.
no
I
no no,
want
I'm
to
not
ask you
finished.
if
I'm not
no.
finished.
You bloody well are for a minute. I want to clarify what you just said because what you seem to be saying is that the slavery of black people was necessary for them because they could not have achieved enlightenment without white people. Is that what you
Absolutely.
meant?
And let me, can I explain? Give me one
That's
minute.
what I thought.
Give me 1 minute.
Yeah, go on.
In order for us to understand that all human beings are equal, and we have a Declaration of Independence in America that actually states this, and this is one of our founding virtues, is that
Yeah, yeah, I know.
all men are created equal. Okay,
Yeah, I know. I've heard it before. I
you've
know.
heard it before. Okay, so
You-
all men are
yeah, it's
created
a
equal.
real shame
This
that
is part,
Americans don't live that way.
yeah, and this is actually what defines a human being as being enlightened because all people matter. Every human being matters. The atheists don't
I
see it
agree.
that way. No, you
Yeah, we
don't.
do.
No, you don't.
Well, what group of people do you suppose I think don't matter?
If you are a person who redefines morality as you progress in a species and a society with the social Darwinism that you brought up, then
No, that's
then
not
so,
social Darwinism. That is not social Darwinism.
yeah, so definitions can change from place to place and time to time. If you were an
Yeah,
atheist,
but don't you try to equate me with social Darwinism. That's that eugenics shit. I'm sorry, no bollocks.
it's okay. But I hope you're catching my point. Is that in
No,
order
I'm
for
not. I'm catching you trying to straw man me.
no, in order for human beings to be enlightened, fully enlightened, that all people matter, that women and men are equal, that skin color has nothing to do with your abilities. Those things, those are enlightenment principles. In order for that to happen, blacks need to be in the society mixed with other human beings. And that's a fact. You if had they
No,
not
it's
been
not.
had that not happened, that their people would not have fully been enlightened in the United States. They would not have all just suddenly changed their mind
No,
on blacks.
people aren't fully enlightened in the United States anyway. I mean, for example, you have a awful legal um, process going on now, removing the rights of trans people. You've got an issue with women's reproductive rights. I mean, it's ridiculous. You
Yeah.
don't see people as equal. You see women as breeding machines. You absolutely deny the most modern science on gender and sex and the differences therein. I mean, I'm not going to expect you to be an expert on that, like I've
So in
refused to try and
every
be an
and
expert on cosmology. But America is not a country that sees people as equals by any means.
yeah, if a person has uh gender dysphoria, and that's condition, it's
Go
now
on.
being redefined. Being redefined to be normal, and yet you still have this
Well,
group of people. You still
it's
have this
been,
group of people of transgenders. They're still committing suicide at 20%.
yeah. And do you think that the stigma against them might have something to do with that?
Well, the stigma that exists in all of us, including you. If you don't believe me, why don't you type in my neighbors who are gay are Max and Jeffrey, and they're going to babysit our nephews over the weekend while we go gambling. And
Yeah,
put that
okay.
on your face. I dare you to put that on your Facebook wall. But because that stigma still exists in all of us, you would not
No,
do
well,
that.
no. Well, you know why I wouldn't do that? Because I would get inundated with abuse from people who think they are so moral.
No, no, because you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it because you don't. You'd be inundated with the people blowing up your Facebook wall with things like, "How could you do something like that?" Because the vast majority, I mean, the 100% of the boys that are molested, almost 100% are from other gay men, and you know that. We know that. Everyone knows that.
Right. You understand that that does not mean that the majority of gay men are child abusers, does it?
40% of them are. That's still quite a bit of number. It's a smaller.
Sorry, that's not that. I don't know where you got that statistic from.
Well,
It's certainly
what
not. It,
if you ask, there's been surveys, men who have.
would these be Christian surveys by any chance?
It doesn't matter.
It
The
bloody
fact is,
does.
the fact of the matter is, if you talk to just about any gay guy, you're gonna know that he was molested as a child. I mean, they'll
No,
tell you that.
that's really not true. That
I gotta
really
run
is
now.
not the case. All right,
I got a
go.
bad cough. I got to tend to this cough. But
All
let's
right.
do this again next Thursday.
Um, I don't think I'm going to be able to next Thursday, but I'll tell you what. I'll send you a message and we'll I'm happy to set up another one, but I'm probably not going to manage next Thursday. But yeah, by all means.
All right.
All
Sounds
right.
good. All right. Thank you. Goodbye.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Cheers. You too. Bye.